Silverstone Classic 2019. Coming up, we have a look at a very special championship-winning Lotus Cortina coming up for auction. Marcus Pye takes a look at the huge Formula 3 grid from 1971 to 1984. And we bring you all the sights and sounds of this legendary event. The Silverstone Classic wouldn't be the Silverstone Classic without the auction. And in fact, this year there are two auctions, one on Friday and one on Sunday. And they've mixed up the competition cars and the road cars. And just outside the auction, this isn't even the auction itself, we've got a whole variety of different cars that you can see up and down underneath these awnings. Everything from a Mark II Jag with all the Coombs modifications, including the louvered bonnet and the arches at the back, through to an interesting car, which is this one, because this is a Ford Falcon Sprint. But it's not a race car, it is actually a road car, as you can see, registered for the road, and that's going to be up for the auction as well. That's next to a lovely 911 there. There are so many different sorts of cars that we see, and I think that that's part of the joy about this, is that you can arrive, and it has been known for people to buy a car in the auction on Friday and race it on Saturday and Sunday. So there's so much to see. You can see all the way through here, lots and lots of different cars, and we're just going to go inside and have a look at some of the others. This Lotus Cortina is the very car that Sir John Whitmore used to win the European Saloon Car Championship in 1965. This car is really, really original. I love the fact that there's no vinyl on this at all. All of these stickers, the number on the front here and the number plate itself are all painted on as they would have been in period. This is a very, very original car in every sense. It wouldn't be competitive in modern saloon car racing, modern historic saloon car racing, because quite clearly it is very, very original. There are hundreds of Lotus Cortinas out there now which have been built almost as new cars, but this is something different because this has all the history. The paintwork is a bit crazed. It's not as perfect perhaps as it might be, but for me this is the Lotus Cortina. Coming a bit more up to date now, 1988, and this is the ICS Rouse Ford Sierra RS 500 Cosworth, the ultimate in Cosworths. This one with over 500 brake horsepower was the second string car run by Guy Edwards in period, and that this was an absolute rocket ship. There was nothing that this car wouldn't do. They ran two in the Caliber colours, which was a alcohol-free lager, and that this car, along with various other ones, were absolutely at the front of everything they did in saloon car racing in 1988. Classic Formula 3. In simpler times, the route to the very top of motorsport was very much more straightforward. Formula 3, then Formula 2, and on to Formula 1. Who can forget those classic battles between some of the rising stars, notably, of course, Martin Brundle and Ayrton Senna, who started their rivalry in Formula 3 all those years ago. Marcus takes a look at this amazing grid.
Classic Formula 3 brings back so many memories, and this is from the era of car which took us from 1974 right through to 1984. The 2-litre era of Formula 3, and this car in particular brings back huge memories for me because it's Andrew Gilbert Scott's 1984 Ralt RT3. It's one of the last of the RT3s with the interesting pushrod front suspension, but for me personally has a very close connection with it because the Racing for Britain scheme, which supported Andrew Gilbert Scott and other young drivers at the time, had this super logo which unbelievably I designed with my brother back in the day, and I was involved in kicking off. I was one of the partners who kicked off Classic Formula 3 back in 1986 when the regulations had changed and most of these cars were obsolete. So it's absolutely fantastic that here we are 33 years later, and Classic Formula 3 has a massive grid here at the Silverstone Classic. It's awesome to see, and the racing will be absolutely superb. One of the interesting things about Classic Formula 3 is the great variety of cars, and here I'm with a 1983 Martini, which is driven by young Christian Olsen, who's a Danish driver, but it has an Alfa Romeo engine built in France by Chico Martini, and I have with me the gentleman who prepares it. It's Slim Borgood, who raced in Formula 3 in 1977 to 79, then went on to Formula 1, but Slim, this must bring back a lot of memories for you.
Yeah, I mean, this was the type of cars we used to drive, and I used to have an RT1 Ralt, which was a nice car. We won Swedish championship and third in the European.
Brilliant stuff. But you were known for two things in your career. One, you were a Formula 1 driver, which was fantastic. Secondly, you were a drummer with ABBA at one point.
Yeah, I did some session stuff in the studio with them, and obviously they supported me by the use of their logo.
Which helped draw in some sponsorship, I hope.
Well, it didn't include a lot of money, but it was sort of a handshake deal. But obviously most teams thought that I have gold in bags.
Exactly, but you had some very nice friends. But you've got son Christian Olsen, yeah, father Tom Olsen driving the other car. Christian's right on the front row. He's done a fantastic job, and his father, you say, is an absolute ace in damp conditions, which we have today.
That's correct. They have been operating very well in damp and dry now, but it took a long time to get them. It's a very sensitive chassis to adjust and all that. But they're a good pair, and they've been with me. I've been running cars for them since 2009 when I set up Slim Racing. So it's nice to be on the front here.
Fantastic. Well, that's brilliant. I'll leave you to your preparations. Have a great race, you guys, and we'll speak later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's it from the Silverstone Classic for this year. Don't forget, we'll be covering this all the way through the next week and beyond with all sorts of things on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and of course on historicracingnews.com.